how that's going to be done, so we don't take, so we have no chance of the dogs just running off leash. We also want to reduce the number of days per week to 6 that the park will be open. We'd like to keep the hours of operation the same as it is today, which is 10 a.m. to 7:30 p.m., but we'd like to close the park on Sundays. So there'll be no activity there on Sundays. And we're going to continue to limit to 2 dogs per person. We will continue to look at locations that become available to see if it deemed an appropriate location to move it. We're not going to turn our back on trying to move the park down the road. We are committed to improving the parking situation. We haven't worked out all the details on that yet, but we are committed to doing that also. And then we want to continue with the beautification on this whole project overall. We want to make some investments in landscaping, add some picnic tables, and a few other things to make it look a little more appropriate and pretty down there.
I forgot one thing, if I could just take 1 more second. The reason that we had left the 10 non-residents in, obviously this whole thing is about reducing numbers. The park started in 1999, and there have been some people. There's a woman, an elderly woman who's been coming there since day 1 with 2 dogs. A number of these people who have been there since day 1 have helped us raise funds for some of the work that's been done there. They help us clean the place up. They help self-police. So we felt that if we limited the number, and I'm not even saying that there would be 10 non-residents, but we figured if we wanted to put a number, at least to allow some of the people who have been there since day 1 or for a long time to continue to come. So that's why that's in there.
It's a proposed number.
Yes.
It's a proposal to you for your consideration. So that's pretty much it, the summary of what we have outlined, what we'd like to do going forward at the dog park. Any questions for me?
Excuse me, Michael,
Yeah.
can you just read what the existing rules are? So people,
Yeah, sure. I'll do that real quick. The hours of operation are 10 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. and we don't have it restricted to any days off right now. It's all 7 days of the week. All dogs must be leashed to and from the vehicle. Owners must clean up after their dogs and properly dispose into the provided trash containers. Excessive barking will not be tolerated and dogs must be removed. Any dogs exhibiting excessive aggression must be immediately removed. Limit to 2 dogs per person per visit. No food or dog treats allowed on the premises. Dogs must be licensed and vaccinated.
Okay.
Well, let's hear from the public.
Okay, we'll hear from the public.
Because I'm sure Mr. Roberts is going to want to speak.
When you raise your hand to be acknowledged, state your name and address, and if you're a resident in the area of the park, we'd probably like to know that too. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Roberts.
Frank Roberts, number 2 Park. The neighborhood had some time ago chosen me to be a spokesman for the neighborhood, and that, I believe, is why Mr. Grossman came up to my house to talk about these points, and what he had said in relation to that was correct. The issue of the discussion was to find if there was something that could be done that would make the park less objectionable, that the people would accept. And at that time, my commitment to that was that I would take these recommendations that had been written. There were originally 7, and then that got expanded a little bit more, that I would take it to the residents and get their response. At this time of year, with vacations as they are, that's not always easy to do, but I was able to talk to 15 of them. And of the 15, the response was absolutely not. There wasn't one person that I talked to that was willing to accept these, and it was not because of an issue of hard-headedness, but they all cited a couple of facts and I'll let my wife bring up a couple of issues of what's been going on there. But all of these recommendations, each one addresses a problem with the potential of reducing the offensiveness of that problem. However, none of them address the problem that the road approaching the park has a very limited sight path, and a car coming over the knob of that hill then is faced with a bunch of cars in front of them. I have a picture here taken by Paul Gallant that I would like you to see. This is Tuesday, July 3rd, 6 p.m. You'll note on the extreme right of that picture there is a van parked parallel to the road. That van makes it necessary for the resident that lives in that house, when they come out of their driveway, to come out right square across that road. A car coming over the hill has no way to see the car that's crossways. Now, fortunately, that situation has not occurred yet, but if it does, there is going to be a T-bone accident where no one is at fault because there is no way to avoid it. The issues that we talked about and have been read tonight do not address the issue of barking. That has been a constant problem. There are times when it's really bad and there are times when it's relatively quiet, but it's always there. I have a letter here from the Gallant family who is away on vacation, and they asked me to bring it. Now, this I have is a copy, and I believe the original went to the selectmen. I don't know whether it went to the board or whether it went to individual selectmen. But I'd like to just mention a couple things in that letter. In attending the June 11th Parks and Recreation meeting regarding the dog park situation at 8 Park Street, it became very clear that the committee had already made up their minds about the use of this field. The committee said that they had narrowed the choices for the dog park down to 4. Number 1, the Park Street site. Number 2, J.T. Berry site. Number 3, the Walmart site. Number 4, no dog park at Park Street. The committee then gave a brief explanation on all but the last choice, no dog park, and then admitted that they never really considered option 4. As to the discussion regarding the safety issues on this site, the committee stated that this was not their problem. It was a DPW problem. That does not address the problem itself. The Park Street site is on a very narrow road with very poor sight lines and no sidewalks. Increased automobile and pedestrian traffic will only add to this problem. My wife will give you some times that she has confronted people at the dog park, but one of the people that she confronted said to her, "Who takes care of this park?" Now that's a critical issue. This happened at 7:30 in the morning. None of the people from the dog park committee is there to police the park and kick people out who don't belong. None of the people from the park department are there to kick people out. The police are called, but they don't respond. Who then is in charge of this park? The neighbors. And the neighbors have no authority. The problem is not the fence. The problem is that the place is inappropriate. And you can plant flowers, and you will have an inappropriate place with flowers. You can put up a bigger fence, you'll have an inappropriate place with a bigger fence. You can plant bushes, and you will have an inappropriate site with bushes. This is what all of the neighbors told me, all of one voice. I think the issue is quite clear. I don't see any way to maintain a dog park at that site in an acceptable way. Thank you.
Mrs. Robbins.
Just this past week, I had observed several things at the park. We have had house guests for the entire month of July. And on Monday morning, July 16th, at 7:30 a.m., our guests were awakened by dogs barking in the dog park. And that same morning, I observed someone pull their car up, read the rules, and so I waited and watched. After they read the rules, they parked. They got their dog on a leash and went into the dog park. And I said to them, "Excuse me, but do you realize the park is not open?" And he said to me, "Who runs the park?" I'm sort of new at this, and I said, "Are you a North Reading resident?" He said, "No, I'm from Reading." And I said, "Well, I observed you reading the rules and regulations, and you observed that the park does not open until 10 o'clock, and you're here this early in the morning." And he said, "Well, I'm sort of new at it." And I said, "You still read the rules and regulations. I have your registration number and it will be reported." He was a resident from Reading. On 7/20, which was this past Friday at 8:30 p.m., there were people in the dog park with barking dogs. The police were called. At 9:15, we had dogs in there again, that late, barking. We had company trying to sit on a screen porch in our yard, enjoying our company, and this is what we had to put up with that evening. This is just a couple of incidents this past week. They say in point number 4 that residents must agree to dog park rules and regulations. They can agree to them, but who's going to stop them from breaking them? And they are being broken. And if they've got point number 5, any resident who disobeys will lose their permit to go in there. Who's going to know? The only ones policing the dog park are the residents who live there. And it's just terribly upsetting to have to put up with this. I have better things to do with my time than to be policing the dog park, and I'm sure the other residents feel the same way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Robbins. Anyone else wish to comment?
I'm Jamie Rachapi. I live on 16 Emerson, not near the dog park. Couple of things. The first thing is on the idea of the key. What if it documented who went in and who came out? That way, if people were there on off times, because that would be frustrating. Who came in, who comes out? If they're going too early or too late, it's it's controlled through some sort of tracking using a key. It's an idea.
I assume you're a proponent of the dog park.
Yes.
Yes.
I just what you're saying. Mrs. Roberts made 4 or 5 comments related to too early and too late. The reason we're suggesting the higher fence and a keyed access, because that's going to stop immediately. If someone who comes at 7:30 and can't get in, is not going to come at 7:30 again. Someone who comes at 9:30 and wants to get in at night is not going to come again because they won't be able to get in. I think 4 or 5 of our issues were around time. Those would go away immediately if there was keyed access. They have to, unless someone wants to sit there in their car and wait for 2 hours. And as far as
If they have a key, why would they stop them?
no, if they have a key, if they have a key, but not. I mean, it is. I can't imagine someone who agrees to the rules and gets the key and pays for it is going to go and abuse the privilege.